They told you pain makes you stronger. But what if I told you that's only true for the ones who think like a strategist, not a victim? In this video, we'll break down the real reason your suffering didn't make you stronger and how to turn that around Machiavelli style. The problem isn't your pain. The problem is how you processed it. You've been told that your pain is a curse, that suffering is misfortune, that when things go wrong, it's because life is unfair or perhaps you did something wrong. But let me tell you the truth that no one will say out loud. Pain is not punishment, it is information. You were never meant to walk through life untouched. The people who live untouched by pain are the ones protected by illusions, wealth, status, or sheer luck. And illusions are fragile, luck runs out, status fades. But when pain comes for you, and it will, it doesn't come as a curse, it comes as a message. Every betrayal, every humiliation, every loss you endure, these are data points. They are brutal, yes, but they are real. And in a world full of lies, reality is the most powerful thing you can hold. Narrator tone sharpening, let me ask you, what did you feel the last time someone lied to you? Anger, confusion, shame, and yet, buried beneath those emotions was a fact. You trusted the wrong person. That pain you felt, it wasn't sent to break you. It was a lesson screaming at you, saying, open your eyes. But you didn't listen. Most don't, because they're too focused on feeling better, too eager to move on, too desperate to wrap suffering in shallow quotes and fake positivity. And that's where most people fail. They think of pain like it's a storm, something to wait out. They hope it passes and then they return to who they were before. But those who think like Machiavelli know better. Pain is a signal from reality, one you'd be a fool to ignore. A lie from a friend isn't just a betrayal, it's a map to their character. Being fired from a job isn't just loss, it's a spotlight on your value. A heartbreak isn't weakness, it's a mirror to your vulnerabilities. And yet, how many people treat these experiences like accidents, like punishments from the universe? No, they are feedback, unfiltered, merciless, and essential. Narrator low and deliberate. Machiavelli once said, "The wise man does at once what the fool does finally." The wise man doesn't wait for the pain to pass. He doesn't pray for healing. He studies his wounds like a scientist. He watches the world like a strategist, because he knows if it hurt him, it has meaning. The betrayal teaches him who to exclude. The humiliation shows him where he exposed his weakness. The defeat tells him where the structure of his life was fragile, and he adjusts. This is not resilience in the romantic sense. This is not some poetic journey of the soul. This is calculated adaptation. You are being told to feel your emotions, yes, but why not understand them? Where is your mind while your heart bleeds? Every painful experience is a manual written in blood and fear. Most throw it away, but the powerful, they read it again and again. Narrator intensifying, look closely at those who dominate their worlds. Do you think they avoided pain? No, they dissected it. They learned how to speak without revealing, how to smile without trusting, how to move through betrayal without crumbling. Not because they were cold, but because pain taught them faster than kindness ever could. Pain tells you, you were too available. You were too kind. You believed too easily. You reacted too emotionally. You misjudged someone's character. Now the question is, did you take notes? Or did you just cry and move on? Did you treat it like a teacher? Or did you run from the lesson? Narrator voice slowing, reflective. Here's a secret. The universe is always giving you feedback. It just doesn't come in words. It comes in the form of discomfort, loss, loneliness, public embarrassment, private regret. But in each of those moments, there is a truth hiding inside the pain. A hard, bitter truth, one that could shift the direction of your life forever. But only if you stop blaming, only if you stop numbing, only if you learn to analyze the pain rather than personalize it. Most people want the pain to stop, but those who understand power, they want to know why it started. And that is the beginning of real strength. Suffering doesn't make you wise, not automatically. It doesn't make you noble. It doesn't make you pure. But it does do something else, something more useful. It clears the fog, all the illusions, all the emotional comfort zones, all the pretty lies you told yourself. They burn away when suffering enters the room. You begin to see life for what it is, not what you wish it was. You see people for what they are: transactional, selfish, fragile, manipulative. You see yourself, stripped bare, not the version with dreams and hope and excuses, but the one that's standing in front of the mirror at 3 a.m. wondering how you got played again. Suffering doesn't elevate you to the heavens. It drags you down into the dirt, and then it forces you to open your eyes, because that's where clarity begins, not in comfort, not in love, but in loss. In defeat, in isolation. Narrator calm, philosophical. When you're happy, you don't analyze. You float. You overlook red flags. You call it optimism. You trust because you want to. You forgive because you're afraid to confront. But when you suffer, you see, that friend you thought would always be there disappears. That partner who swore loyalty breaks at the first sign of inconvenience. That mentor you idolized turns out to be nothing but a mask. You feel betrayed, but you shouldn't. You should feel awakened, because now you see them clearly. You see the game, you see the rules you were pretending didn't exist, and it cuts deep. But pain has a precision that comfort never will. It shows you the difference between fantasy and function. Narrator with an edge. Suffering forces you to revise your emotional economy. You stop giving so easily. You stop explaining yourself to those who don't care. You stop waiting to be saved. You become quiet, not because you have nothing to say, but because you finally understand who deserves to hear you. That is cold clarity, and it's terrifying at first because you realize how much time you've wasted. How many masks you called friends, how many games you thought were real. You look back at your former self with disgust. How soft you were, how open, how easily manipulated. But don't run from that disgust. Sit in it, study it, because that's where evolution begins. Clarity is not poetic, it's surgical. It removes false loyalties. It removes childish hopes. It removes emotional weight you were never meant to carry. And like a scalpel, it hurts, but it saves. Narrator slower, more intimate. You start to ask different questions. Not why did they hurt me, but why did I let them? Not why did I lose, but where was I weak? Not why do they not love me, but what value did I bring to the table, and was it respected? Suffering makes you dangerous, not because it gives you strength, but because it gives you sight. It teaches you to observe instead of assume, to calculate instead of hope, to wait instead of beg. Machiavelli understood this better than most. He knew that emotion clouds judgment, that love makes men foolish, that comfort breeds entitlement. But pain clears the battlefield, it sharpens the blade, it reveals who stands with you and who just stood beside you for convenience, and once you see it, you never unsee it. You may still smile, but the trust is gone. You may still offer kindness, but never for free. You may still forgive, but not forget. You begin to move like a strategist, silent, calculated, cold, not because you became bitter, but because clarity made you efficient. Narrator tone tightening. There's something terrifying about a person who has suffered and refused to become a victim. They're no longer seeking validation. They're no longer begging to be understood. They don't care about opinions, trends, or comfort. They care about leverage, control, positioning, because they've seen the truth. They've felt the sting of reality, and instead of hiding from it, they wrote it down. Memorized it, internalized it. That's the gift of suffering. It kills your delusions and leaves only the essential. You've been lied to. They told you resilience is a virtue. They painted it as noble, like some heroic badge of honor. They said if you keep getting back up, if you keep smiling through the pain, then you're winning. But what they never told you is that resilience in the real world is not about virtue. It's not about being a hero. It's about strategy. It's not about feeling better. It's about becoming untouchable. Because if you think resilience means taking hit after hit with a brave heart and a gentle smile, you're not being resilient. You're being used. Resilience is not about enduring pain for the sake of pride. It's about adjusting your tactics so you never get hit in the same way twice. Narrator voice low, cutting. Most people think being resilient means surviving, but survival is the bare minimum. Resilience isn't about enduring chaos, it's about studying it, preparing for it, and emerging more dangerous because of it. And Machiavelli would agree a man who simply endures is not powerful. A man who endures and learns how to use that endurance as a weapon, that man is to be feared. Resilience in this world should not be romanticized. It should be engineered. You lost something. You were broken down. Good. Now what systems will you build to make sure it never happens again? Who will you stop trusting? What patterns will you burn? Which emotions will you now bury? Because they served no purpose when the knives came out. This is not bitterness. This is design. Narrator tone sharpens. Look closely. The world doesn't reward those who suffer in silence. It rewards those who turn their suffering into leverage. The resilient person that wins is not the one who keeps hoping. It's the one who calculates, the one who adapts like water, the one who lets their pain build walls, not poems, the one who tightens their circle, sharpens their tone, and stops showing up where they aren't respected. Because true resilience is a form of evolution, and evolution is not kind. It is cold. It is precise. People will call you cold. They'll say you've changed. They'll miss the old version of you, the version that overextended, over-apologized, and over-explained. But that version of you wasn't resilient. That version of you was accessible, and what is too accessible is taken for granted. You don't bounce back stronger just because you endured pain. You bounce back stronger only if you become harder to break. And that requires change, internal change, behavioral change, relational change. You stop chasing people. You start attracting silence. You become slow to respond, not out of pride, but because you've learned that energy is a limited resource. Narrator more intense. You want to be resilient. Then you need to stop asking for closure. Stop explaining yourself to the wrong people. Stop running toward comfort. Start building a mindset that doesn't collapse when you're alone. Start creating a version of yourself that doesn't rely on being liked to feel in control. Because resilience, in the Machiavellian sense, is not passive. It's not about holding on. It's about rebuilding yourself as a different kind of creature. One with sharper instincts. One who doesn't seek approval, only advantage. One who doesn't repeat the same wounds and call it strength. Real resilience is being able to take a loss, and from that loss, identify where your armor was weak. And then you forge steel in its place. It's not noble, it's tactical. You don't post about your pain. You protect the information it gave you. You don't beg to be understood. You move in silence, collect the data, and prepare for your next move. People think being strong means smiling in the face of disrespect. That's not strength, that's compliance. Real strength is removing yourself, redefining your worth, never entering the same war twice with the same broken sword. Narrator calm, cold. The resilient ones are not loud. They're not desperate for attention. They're watching, they're listening, they're adjusting their strategy with every blow. And while the world claps for those who cry out loud, the world is quietly ruled by those who learn to sharpen themselves behind closed doors. There's a phrase you've heard 1,000 times. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger, but that's not the whole truth, is it? Because sometimes what doesn't kill you doesn't make you stronger. It makes you colder, it makes you quieter, it makes you different, not better. Not healed, not free, just changed. That's the part no one tells you. That surviving something doesn't guarantee you've grown. It guarantees something in you has shifted permanently. You're not the same person anymore. You don't laugh the same, you don't trust the same, you don't dream the same, and maybe that's the point. Narrator lower, more precise. You see, the idea that pain leads to strength assumes one thing, that you chose to build strength from it. But most people don't choose, they react. They adapt, but not always upward. Some people come out of pain more fragile, more fearful, more bitter. Others, more silent, more watchful, more dangerous. And a rare few, come out sharpened like blades, emotionally detached, strategically alive, because pain is a forge, and a forge doesn't ask what you want to become. It just burns, and you either melt or you become steel. Narrator colder, almost surgical. What doesn't kill you may leave you walking, but it doesn't leave you whole. It changes how you see people. You no longer believe in words. You believe in patterns. You no longer give people the benefit of the doubt. You give them a calculated trial, and most fail before they even know they're being watched. You learn to keep your distance. You learn to appear warm while keeping your core frozen. Because now you understand something vital. Closeness is vulnerability, and you've already paid the price for being too open. You don't touch fire twice, not if you're smart. Narrator sharpened tone. The naive version of you died in that pain. The one that trusted blindly, the one that believed words over actions, the one that waited for apologies, that person doesn't exist anymore. What's left is someone harder. Someone who no longer asks why people do what they do but studies it. Someone who doesn't seek closure but seeks power in understanding. You become someone who watches, someone who calculates, someone who doesn't give away information just to feel connected. Because you've learned that information is ammunition and silence is security. You don't tell people how much it hurt. You don't explain what it did to you. You let them wonder. You let them assume, because now you don't perform pain. You protect what it gave you, insight. Narrator voice calm, thoughtful. Some wounds never fully heal, but they don't need to. They just need to teach you something. They need to change the way you respond, the way you move, the way you enter rooms, read people, offer access. You used to give too freely. Now you make people earn the smallest parts of you. You used to believe people were like you, truthful, loyal, consistent. Now you accept that most aren't, and instead of mourning that fact, you use it. You predict behavior. You anticipate betrayal. You stop giving trust and start testing it. This isn't paranoia. It's pattern recognition. It's self-preservation. It's the result of being changed by something that almost destroyed you and deciding to never let it come that close again. A narrator leaning in. People will say you're too distant now, too harsh, too serious. They'll miss the old version of you, the version that smiled easily, trusted instantly, loved without question. But that version died in the fire, and you didn't bring them back, because they were the reason you burned. Now you don't aim to be liked. You aim to be respected. You don't open up quickly. You observe. You listen to what's not being said. You move with purpose, not emotion, because you know now that what doesn't kill you doesn't leave you unchanged. It leaves you sharper. It leaves you colder. It leaves you with fewer illusions, fewer expectations, fewer regrets. You don't seek peace with everyone. You seek peace with yourself and protection from what you once allowed too close. This isn't weakness. This is evolution. Not the kind that grows flowers, but the kind that builds fortresses. They told you that pain builds character, that if you endure enough, life will reward you. But now, you know better. Pain is not a punishment. It is a message. It is reality stripped of comfort, stripped of illusion, stripped of mercy. It teaches faster than kindness ever could. And those who survive it with their eyes open do not come back the same. They come back strategic. They come back ruthless. They come back aware. Because the truth is, suffering doesn't make you stronger by itself. It gives you the raw material to become stronger. But what you build with it, that's on you. Some become victims. Some become survivors. And a rare few become masters. Masters of observation. Masters of control. Masters of the self. Not because they were born powerful, but because they refuse to stay weak. So when the world breaks you, don't rebuild yourself the same way. Rebuild colder. Rebuild quieter. Rebuild with memory and with strategy. Because what doesn't kill you, it doesn't just make you stronger, it makes you dangerous.